We're at the bygone town of Ricketts. We're going to check out a couple of buildings. Come on, let's go. Hi, DD Explorers here. We're up here by Ricketts Glen State Park. There used to be a jumpin' town up here. It was a lumber town. It was formed in 1890 and it went out in 1913. 23 years. That's how it was. They came, they built, they stayed, they took all the lumber they could, and then they moved on to another town. Some of the buildings are still up here. I won't have time today to explore the whole town, but we're going to explore the downtown area. Come on, let's go see. Okay, now this first building, the park ranger wasn't 100% sure of what it was. She said it may have been for dynamite storage. Not quite sure. It's kind of contradictory that it's going to be for dynamite storage because there's wood inside of it. Got a nice big thick cement walls, but there's wood inside of it. Let's go take a look, see what's in there. All right, let's go see what we can find here. Some theorize it was an ice house. It could have been. But being that the walls were so thick, well, it was either ice or then you could see the way the top caved in. This is one of the old railroad beds that used to come through the area. There were a lot of spurs that crossed through this area. The land was timbered. They took everything they could out of it, and when they cleared all the trees, they just kind of left. So these trees that you're seeing right now, they're young. They're not that old. They're not as old as the town of Ricketts. Okay, this area obviously looked a lot different back then than it did now. This was a pond, and there was one of the mills. I can't really go down there, it's just way too swampy, but that was one of the mills there. I got here kind of just at the right time, not too late in the year. So the growth isn't blocking everything. When you come up here in the middle of summer, not only are you going to get a bajillion bugs, but it's going to be really hard to see some of the foundations and features. Okay, this is the bottom of that dam, of the pond. You can see that beavers have built a dam there. Way back when, we don't know if it was a combination of beavers or a man-made dam, but one of the other people suggested that it might be an old beaver dam sitting there. Over here, see if I could get over there without killing myself. Okay. Okay, I made it without killing myself. Yippee. Okay, this wood was part of the railroad bridge. Took the railroad over the dam, over the water. There's some more wood. It's amazing that you can still see some of the wood. And that's over what? It's over 100 years old. It's still here. And that is Mahoopany Creek. It means many potatoes or wild potatoes. That's what it's supposed to mean. But there aren't any potatoes or wild potatoes around here that we could see. But the old pussy willow, or not pussy willows, those poofy cat o' nine tail. Oh boy, those nice poofy things that have such sticky stuff in them. They are called potatoes too. This whole area, long time ago, was bought by Colonel Ricketts, who fought in the Civil War. And ironically, he had servants, slaves, shall you say. He bought all this land, thousands and thousands of acres, for one purpose, to lumber it. He made his money, don't you think? Okay, I made it down. Oof. I made it down here by the creek. Just about by the creek. This was another one of the railroad bridges. Like I said, there were a lot of railroad spurs around here, so there are many bridges we could check out. All we got to do is find them. They had spurs going up to Lopez and Hoopany and down towards Jim Thorpe even. There were a lot. Now, the train station was right in this area. There's not a whole lot to see. You're probably thinking, why? There's only some small foundations and not much more else. No walls, anything like that. Well, these lumber towns, they were built to be temporary. They came, they lumbered, they moved on, built another little town. So, a lot of times, they took all the wood they could from the homes and moved on and built their new houses out of that lumber. Okay, now there's a hole up here. This is where the company store was. And yes, believe it or not, the lumber towns had a company store where all the employees had to buy everything they needed. Just like the coal companies. This is why so many of these people were so poor. Why was there a basement dug? We're not 100% sure. Was it a root cellar? Was it to store ice? Not sure. Right around here, there were houses. There were a whole bunch of houses. If the people needed anything, like anything they couldn't get at the company store, they had to take the railroad up to the next town, which would be Lopez, about 4.5 miles away, 5 miles. Okay, this right here is an old apple tree. I'm not sure how old it is, but it has seen better days. The productive years are over. Don't sit under the apple tree with any... I'm having a good time up here. Hope you guys are liking this video. Okay, and right by the apple tree is a hole. Say, what was that hole for? It's not very deep, and it's not very big, it's not very wide, but that was a well. So, being that there is some raised ground around here and some rocks piled in very planned out spots, we are going to assume that there was a house right here by the apple tree and the well. Okay, now this spot is where the one-room schoolhouse was. There were 800 people living here, so eventually they had to turn it into a two-room schoolhouse. Anyhow, I'm going to walk around to the corners of it so you can see like where it was, how big it was. Okay, this is another well. This one's deeper. Not sure how deep, but it's deeper. Of course, it's a little hard to tell because people have thrown pieces of the old railroad ties down there, so Your guess is as good as mine. Well, that's about all I could show you today. Next time I come up here, I'm going to go down on the other road, what they called Upper Ricketts, where the rich people lived. There's not a whole lot to see down there besides a couple of foundations, but there is one mill that I might be able to get a peek at. So I'm going to wrap this up now. Thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button, please. Click like, dislike, make a comment. Have fun with it. Anyhow, hope to see you soon. Peace, baby.